Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Satology Debunking Mythology, which is Sat is a Sanskrit root dhatu or word for truth or eternity. Many different words come from there. Satya, Satya Pratishtha, different words are made from that on the dhatu. And when you combine with logos, which is a Greek or Latin origin word, due to the Western etymology, I have to add O to rhyme it with the word which is exactly opposite of that, which is mythology. Mythology is again built on the word Sanskrit root word myth, which is gives mithya, mithyachar, mithya ahankar. Many different words are made from there. And when they combine logos to that, they had to add the O for etymological rules. It became mythology or mythology. In English, they call it, which means a science of fake lie or imagination, because the root word is fake lie, imagination in English. So Sathology is an opposite of mythology. I have a very, very special guest who is going to throw light on these dhatus today and how different words have come from dhatus, different words. And also dhatus are used in creating new words also. So Sanskrit is a very open language where you can use these root words to expand. So without delay, let us welcome Dr. Varsha Sharda. Namaskar and welcome.
Namo Namaha, Namaskaraha.
So, Varsha ji, before we start off, so even do you think that even Nama is a root word?
Yes. Namaste, Namami. So by that, Namaskaraha is created. Namaha
So,
is also like that.
so, like, do you say when we talk about seva, where is the root word for seva? Or different, like, very common words are used: seva, yoga, and many common words, bhakti. Now, all these have root words. What are the root words for these kind of words? Very commonly used, actually.
Yes, say sevate, seva. It will go like sevate, or you give your service. This you are supposed to understand the intentions of the person, and you're supposed to give your service to the
Mhm.
person. That is sevate. So sevate, it will go like for having also, for
Mhm.
possessing.
Mhm.
So sevate is by two ways it goes. Sevadhatu, and it is said that when can you serve someone? When you have accepted him totally, then you can serve the person. Other or some cause. If you have accepted it, you have taken it fully with you, with your Atma Tattva, then itself you can say do seva. So that is sevate. So seva has the seva dhatu, and which one you asked? Uh,
Bhakti and yoga.
Bhakti. Yes. Bhajate, bhajadhatu. There you you always keep the thing in your heart, that is bhajate. And you keep appreciating and giving your energy to the thing which you are uh, appreciating. So that is bhaja. So bhajate. So from that bhakti, one who does this kriya of bhajate, always he has given the wherever he is devoting his bhakti, that thing is kept in his heart, deep into his heart, and always he has given the space for that in his life. So that is bhakti. So the devotion is bhakti.
And yoga. Yoga.
Yoga, yuja. Yujate. So that is it might be used like yojayati, to join. Then by which you are karmasu kaushalam, it is said yoga karmasu kaushalam. So you combine your all the energies together, and create some balance in your life. So everything is joined together, or taken into consideration all together. That is yoga. So that is karmasu kaushalam. Kaushalam is uh, doing lot many things with your expertise.
Last time you mentioned many different terms, dhatu, ghantu, and
Yes,
so
Nighanta.
so how the nighantu, how how do these words of Sanskrit? So can you elaborate on all these different points, dhatu, nighantu, and different areas? What are the difference and how they help us build a language?
Yes. Actually, if we pay attention to Sanskrit, uh, we have Sanskritam. We have many words altogether. Some words are derived from dhatu, and some are original where we cannot find the dhatu. We cannot find dhatu in that word. So those type of words are also mentioned by Panini in his Ashtadhyayi, Unadayaha Bahulam. So there, so all these words, they were in the form of vakyam, means sentence was first. When language is created, your intentions are communicated. So whatever you want to speak, whatever sound is made up, every time it is in a form of some expression that is full sentence. So basic unit of language is sentence. But to have clear idea of the language, or for vyutpatti, all these sentences are segregated or divided, which is imaginary, kalpanikam. Hmm? Bhartrhari has mentioned in Vakyapadiyam that every grammar, whatever we divide and decide, that is imaginary. Originally, dhatu was created, it came up, and then words came up. No, sentences came up. Hmm? In Vedic literature also, all the sentences came up. They were Vedaha Prakatitaha, it is said. So always what we wish to say, if I say, hey, so then I have that some akanksha there before also and after also, that is sentence actually. So every time, what is basic unit? It is considered as a vakyam. And whatever we are dividing, that is imaginary. Why do we do that? They are saying there are two aspects. One is spiritual and one is materialistic. Spiritual aspect is that how this universe is one and one, and we divide it into small parts to understand it. So this is the process of understanding Brahmandam. So that same process is followed for Vakyam, language, Vani. So there also the same process of understanding by small bits is followed, and Vyakaranam, Vyakaroti iti Vyakaranam, this has come up. Grammar has come up. So they say it is a very old tradition. Vyadi has written Sangraha. It was very big grantha, and we get references in Paninian grammar about Vyadi and Shakalya. So 10 other many acharyas. It's far beyond we may say historical period, and that understanding or segregating or vyakaroti or explaining language by dividing them came into existence. And pratishakyas, they were explaining this Vedic grammar. So this grammar is vyakaranam, vyakaroti iti vyakaranam. And why do we do it? To understand Vani, total inside out swarupam of Vani, of language. So whatever form is there of Vani, how it is created, for what it is used, and what are the intentions. By Vakyam, we go for expressions and communication, but for understanding the depth, deep, what we say, akanshas, interlinked expectations of the words. To understand them, we are supposed to divide them into words, prakriti, pratyaya. So there, prakriti, pratyaya, vichara, which is imaginary, that has come. So if I say pathati, the verb is someone is reading. Pathati. If I say pathami, aham pathami. Aham is there. We cannot avoid it. Me is there, then aham pathami. Full sentence is there. So what is in existence? Vakyam is in existence. But what I do, I take pathami and I divide it. Who is karta? What is the effect of karta on what? And then I decide me is there. Then aham is karta. So pathami, its basic root is patha. And then pathami has come up. And why basic root I am counting out? Why? Because when I say gachati, I'll give one example. Gachati, gamishyati, gatavan, agachat, gatva, ganta, all the forms. When all the forms are created, naturally something is stable in that. That stable part of those all words, it's taken as dhatu. So here it is gama. So everywhere you cannot say gachishyati. No, it is gamishyati. See, usage came first. Loke bhasha prathama asit. So in the word, language came up first. Then vyakaranam. Then this grammar. Grammar was for explaining the things. So when vyakaranam came into existence, people started understanding swarupam or various forms of vani by which meanings were stabilized. From Vedas, meaning were extracted and understood and kept into memory. So this was done by Pratishakyas. And why it is so? Because stability is there. So this is very, very materialistic purpose that language can convey same meaning for thousands of years if you have Vyakaranam with you. If you have right method to divide it and understand it. Otherwise, for some centuries, Pathami is learning. For some centuries, Pathami is for watching. It might change anyhow. So this has happened with Prakrit languages. That's why Vyakaranam was adopted from Sanskrit and it was applied to Prakrit language. All the Indian languages or other languages in the world also. So this was the start of creating dhatus. Yes, I feel we can discuss on this. Is it clear or not?
Yes. Now, I think many questions are also coming now in the live show. So how the other languages of the world are connected to dhatus in Sanskrit? Do you have some examples for them?
Yes, if we Google, we get many big list that words are there and they're assimilating. As last time I said, psychology, it is from Ipsa. Then hasati, laugh. So lasati, it is from lasadhatu. Laugh is from lasadhatu. Then go is same, go, gama. So we can talk about English. Many things are there. And we keep getting all the roots in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, 2000 roots are there. And the 2000 roots are having only, again, 5 suffixes to put and create new dhatu. So anyhow, whatever form is created, some form is identified in any other language. This happens. So it is not like that you will identify dhatu itself. You can identify some other form also.
So for an English speaker, is it very natural to come to Sanskrit? It can be very easy. For Latin, yes. For Latin people, it is very easy. People who speak Latin like Spanish, Portuguese, or Italian, or any of the European languages other than English. English is highly modified. But most of the Latin people can pronounce Indian words very accurately. I live in San Diego. Most of the Mexicans can pronounce Aditya clearly.
Wow.
But the Caucasians who are from English background, British background, they cannot. So
Yes.
so the but the still the roots are the same because English also takes its origin from Latin. Still the roots are the same.
Actually, I feel there are two parts. One is pronunciation, and another is understanding dhatu or understanding verbs and using them. So there are two parts. One is for pronunciation. For pronunciation, it happens that when you cannot pronounce and you don't have capacity to say something, then the pronunciation problem is there. But for understanding, for laugh, if lassa is there, it might be understood, because verbs in English, if there, if the system is adopted that we should have dhatu and this kalpanikam, whatever is done by our rishis, that language is to be divided and to be stabilized and understood, and how brahmandam or vishwam or universe is understood. By that way we are supposed to understand language. So if the same methodology is adopted, then each and every language will get a big benefit. Means it is very very useful for each and every person to learn Sanskrit and have this approach towards their own language.
You just now mentioned on Google, you search Google, you'll see so many dhatus connected, more than 2000, you said, no? So in the Google, it can be a source of misinformation also, and also it is a source of cultural appropriation also, where they want to take, the very common word is used, Indo-European languages. Now,
Yes.
it is more Indian than European, but they won't write Indian languages. They'll say Indo-European. Like for the numerals, they'll say Indo-Arabic numerals,
Oh.
Hindu-Arabic numerals. So even though the numerals, they originated in India and they went to Persia, and then from Persia they went to Arab, but again it's called Indo-Arabic numerals. So India is, even though its origin is always hyphenated. So
Mm.
there is a very important word called vritti in Sanskrit, vritti, and is used in many different aspects. Vritti, ritti. So the word ritual, very closely connected there. The ritual, vritti, and again the ritual. Then it becomes spiritual, also connected there, vritti.
Yes.
So the Sanskrit language, the which is a was the official language during Ramayana times. Lava Kush spoke in Ramayana in Sanskrit in front of Sri Ram, and the official language of Pandavas was Sanskrit. We all know very reliably that we can say that. So, what is the dhatu, nighantu, and different Sanskrit concepts are there, which helps us to reconstruct Sanskrit. If somebody wants to learn it and speak it, even in the Western world, what principles they can use to create words easily, or to learn or it is important to learn the dhatu first and then you start speaking. I'm talking about spoken Sanskrit, like a
Okay.
samanya Sanskrit.
Hmm. Okay. Actually, what is that? Dhatu is very very deep. Means a very very basic unit of verb. Directly, verbs are to be learned, and verbs are to be used in sentences. So this is the right way to learn. Actually, you are supposed to list out the verbs, use them for different actions with you as a doer, and or other person, because person is there, third person, first person, second person. So understanding persons and making small small sentences, aham pathami, and using verbs. So nearly basically 30 verbs are useful in the beginning, and those 30 verbs are used with different doers, kartas, and then sentences are formed. So this is the basic way to go on to make sentences and explain what are you doing and what do you do, and you can ask people what do you do, and like that they can start learning. And why Sanskrit? Sanskrit becomes because approach of Sanskrit is, you don't have hurdles while making sentences, because Ram eats mango, mango eats Ram, you cannot say that. But Ramaha phalam khadati, phalam khadati Ramaha, there is no sequence, because each and every word is having its own independent character. Wherever you keep it, its meaning will not change. So this is speciality of Sanskrit, and if person is learning Sanskrit, it happens that he is free from his sequential thinking, whatever sequential language he's using till that box is broken, and they come out and start thinking very free, means freely, and start you making sentences very easily by adding words in any which sequence, and they are expressing themselves. So this is most important characteristic of Sanskrit, which underlines its originality. We cannot say Indo-European language also. I feel that Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, was having this characteristic with it, and because of that itself, it could be used by other languages, and we get many Sanskrit words in other languages also. Means Prakrita language by Dhwani, for example, I give Dabdaba, always I give example of Jalaprapata. So some words are used directly by sound, by some sound which is heard from the thing, and some words are used, made up from dhatus. So that's why Sanskrit becomes very, very useful to break out all those chains, all those boxes where expressional limitations are there, and that's why Sanskrit language learning becomes most easy because of this sentence structure of Sanskrit. And once you understand that structure, start using verbs. Only 30 verbs are enough, and it becomes very easy for learning Sanskrit, and you start expressing yourself.
Now again, you very well answered this question, that how easy it is to pick up, and you said 30 verbs you said, and also actionable, verbs are all action oriented words. Gamishyati, khadyanti, khadyati, different words, and anti, atah, taha, yatra, tatra, sarvatra, anyatra. So different, like it is here, it is there, simple things like that. This is this, and saha, sa, ta, ta, different words are there. So the next question comes in. The Sanskrit is you can say that is in the psyche of every single person who reads Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata, Ramayana. A lot of Americans also read it, and so there is a logic given that first they have to learn Sanskrit and then they have to read. So how much time does it take to learn Sanskrit root words and words before they can focus on the Shastra of Bhagavad Gita?
Actually, nicely, if you start making sentences, big sentences, and comfortable in writing small story, 36 hours of course is there. And what Sanskrit Bharati has launched, that is also spoken Sanskrit classes are there. So in Vakyajnakulam, we do this, that in 36 sessions, both the capabilities are developed, and people start using long sentences also, and they use only words, verbs. It's only words means indeclinables, avyayas, just like yatra tatra, as you mentioned. So there are different sections which are by the approach of grammar. If they are adopted by that way, it is most easy to use them wherever it is needful. So that need is identified, and according to that, the method of using those words is taught. So this is most important. So once you understand that doer and verb both are there, and lot many words can be added there, So by which way I should add that Akanksha Paddhati. That is very, very old methodology by understanding Akanksha between words. What first word is expecting from other word, or what verb is expecting from other all the words. What verb is expecting from doer, subject. So this, this Akanksha Paddhati is very useful, which is a very old Prachin mythology of learning language or learning Shastras. So this method is adopted, and this method works very well to learn Sanskrit. So people who are reading Bhagavad Gita, it is most important that they should understand the meaning. So if they, by pronunciation way, if they are reciting, once they start making small sentences, they identify those sentences in those shlokas, so that experience is very nice when you get your own sentence in Bhagavad Gita.
No, you very well put it. And the point here is like the politics behind Sanskrit is more than actual efforts to learn the Sanskrit. You know,
Yes.
you mentioned that people make it very difficult, that Sanskrit is a difficult language, but actually it is very natural for a human being.
Yes.
And the Devanagari is the most accurate way of representing any sound in the planet with this thing. So you last time you mentioned about Sanskrit improves the intellect, and we said how it improves the intellect because there are more vowels and more consonants. It's natural. You have more freedom to create words than any other language. So what is the reason that in other languages they reduce the vowels and consonants from the language itself?
Okay. Uh, so actually, what is that? The global politics is not like that. That you should live original life. What is totally natural. When you live natural life, it happens that lot many jumbled things are dissolved. Lot many created things are dissolved, and Sanskrit takes you to that natural, thinking, natural being. So that's why your intellect, whatever influences are there on your intellect, those are removed by the thought process which you adopt when you learn Sanskrit, and you become very, very systematic. That's why intellect becomes very clean and clear. Your thinking process becomes very systematic. So naturally it happens that your weight is less, and you're removing that extra burden on you. So this happens with each and every person. So it is said no that rivers are not kept as they were. You used to go and drink water, but you change them. Now rivers are they like that you cannot drink water from them. That and now you have made up some other system. So this is the swabhava, or this is the way when the complications are created by human beings because of their different vikaras, whims, and the word is behind being fast. What do you do by doing fast? If you once you ask them, they will not understand. Why do I want to go very fast? Means if dogs are running behind some car, then after you stop them immediately, you ask them why are you running, they won't understand, they'll run away. They don't have any reason. So not having any reason to go fast, so this is there in this world, and because of that this politics is created where Sanskrit is kept aside and it is made difficult and it is not accessible. And most of the times it is there that India was guiding people for their for its wearing clothes or eating habits, or what Agasti Rishi has done. He has given you small recipes in your daily life to live your life healthy. So all this knowledge was provided from Bharat to all over the world, but somehow not to accept those roots, not to accept that dominance that is going on, and this politics is there. So that's why Sanskrit learning process has made very difficult, and it is see, once you have complications in you, you inculcate those complications in the language also. So this has happened in Sanskrit parampara also, that Paninian grammar was so clear, but Panini gave Ganapatha and Dhatu Patha, and he was explaining that how you are supposed to put pratyayas or suffixes in front of dhatus, and he was explaining that. And it happened that in 16th century, Bhattoji Dikshit, he came up and he thought that it is too difficult to remember. Actually, techniques were there, and if all the techniques are adopted, then it was very easy to understand. But Gana Patha was kept aside, only Dhatu Patha was taken, and according to that sequence, he explained the Vyutpatti or Shabda Siddhi one by one in Siddhanta Kaumudi. So it became very, very big, Tiganta Prakaranam, and it became very, very long, and complications entered, and people stopped learning Vyakaranam. Vyakaranam became very, very difficult. Actually, basically, what was there? It was there how Sarvadhatukam, Ardhatukam, systematically they had given the keys. You open first door, then you'll open second one, then third one, then third one. You'll open all the doors and you'll get Shabda Siddhi. One type of bunch of verbs. Once you get one verb divided and understood, you will get all the keys of all the verbs. So this system was there with Paninian grammar, which was very traditional. It was from Vavyadi, Shakalya. All these methods were well established. But in 16th century, because of some, life complications, this was left away, and this, Siddhanta Kaumudi learning was started. And then it happened that word to word, Bhasha Vyutpatti, Shabda Siddhi came up, word to verb, and Tinganta, which is called as Tinganta Prakaranam, that became very, very big. So this is specially, I'm talking for all the linguists who are watching, for Sanskritists or Sanskrit people who are learning already little Sanskrit. For them, I'm giving this example. Or generally, whoever is not learning Sanskrit, it happens that we create some complications in our life. That is said by our rishis. That's something which is very, very simple. If you have some vikaras with you, you will make it complicated. So this is seen and identified all over the world, and which might be removed by this perception, which is maintained, and with us it is stabilized through Sanskrit. The life which is original, which is maintained and stabilized with Sanskrit, it is still with us. Now also, Bharat can guide people to not to make complications.
See, it is the duty of the colonizer to put their language, their culture through the language. And we are speaking in English. Probably we are making a good use of English to Sanskritizing English, or teaching Europeans, Americans in English about Sanskrit. We are promoting Sanskrit here. So from Sanskrit comes Sanskriti. And also you mentioned a very good point, Atmate Manyate Jagat. Who you are, you see the whole world as yourself. Your reflection is in your mind, which you're interpreting. Now brings to the point of interpretation. Now Sanskrit is a very exact language. When Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ma Shucha, where the Ma is Na, and he says, do not be afraid, do not be fearful. Daromat in Hindi they call it. So but Ma Shucha sounds so better than Daromat. So how the Hindi got evolved from Sanskrit then?
Actually, all this Marathi Prakrit, Ardhamagadi, then Pali, all the languages which are Prakrit languages, those derived first. Ardhamagadi turned into Hindi gradually. Uh, for example, asti became hai. So pronouncing total word in hurry, you make it small. So we get in Mahabhashya one example that one rishi. This was not the thing that only Sanskrit was surviving and other languages were not there. More than 200 languages were surviving at the time when Sanskrit was used by most of the people. So this was there. Other languages are also created, also mm, there, and they are there, and it is possible to use both the languages altogether. See, practically, human being is a multilingual person. They need lot many languages to speak at a time. So this is not the thing that you're supposed to speak in Sanskrit and always you're in Sanskrit. It doesn't happen. Why? Because Sanskrit is samskaritam, which is directly affecting all the vibrations, which is very very particular, very very mathematical. When you are not concerned with that mathematical vibrational aspect, you dilute it, and it happens that only the tool of Vani, only the language to just communicate, it is used. In Mahabhasham, it is said that his name is Yadvana Tadvana and Yadvanaha Tadvanaha, and he used to say, my name is Yarvana Tarvana, like that. He used to use that, say that. So this example is given there also. So it was accepted. It doesn't matter, means always you are supposed to speak in very very particular form, which is directly connected to the vibrations. Directly it is changing vibrations around you. So this is not the case. You might shift your life from there, and it might be very 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 practical, and there you use Prakrit language. So like that, Hindi has derived. It is Prakritam, and mm, lot many all the structure is same like Sanskrit. uh, just like Pali, how dharma is called as dhamma, sharanam is called as saranam. So that pronunciation, which is very very samskarita, it is diluted and brought to your daily routine, where you are not supposed to open your mouth much, and like that you're speaking. So that type of languages are also there, which are prakritam, which are derived from Sanskrit, and those languages were also there, which are originally like that. They are nothing to, they are not doing anything to the vibrations or Vedic rhymes, or they are not connected to the yajna, or they are not connected to the machinery where yajna is changing the universal, some processes. So where these languages were not concerned, those languages were also surviving. So those Prakrit languages were there, and those were not used. Now also, means those for many centuries, those were not used for doing yajna or doing rituals which are directly connected to metaphysics. So this is not done. Only Sanskrit was used there because it is vibrational language, and Prakrita language was used for daily routine in your hurry, in your incapabilities, or in your casual life. You, whatever language you use, by that Hindi or Vraja Bhasha, it was spoken by Krishna, Shri Krishna also. Raja Bhasha, it was there, and it was, those languages were very very sweet.
In Ramayana, there is a reference of Madhesi and Sanskrit. So
Yes.
Madhesi is the common language, Avadhi, which you call it Madhesi. And still the word Madhesi is used in many parts of India. When I watched the movie Bahubali, and I really liked the original Telugu version because it had more Sanskrit, and the music was a lot of Sanskrit shabd are used. Mahishmat, there's a reference of the Mahishmat Puri. There's a reference of that. Now, going not against the story of the movie, but still the words were far more closer to Sanskrit than Hindi or any other language in India. Even the words like Yashna in Parsi, Yajna, Yagya, and also these are all different words used across this entire subcontinent. So we can see that Parsi getting very easily influenced with Sanskrit. And the Sanskrit was officially banned in India during the British time, officially, because it was considered that it is the only unifying language of Bharat. One language unifies the entire country, whether it's a Tamrapali or Tamil or any other language. Like you correctly said, that most of the languages came simultaneously. It is not that when the people were in India and the Africans did not have a language, they also had a language. And so it's the whole world, languages evolve locally. Now, in today's context, if we see that there is a greater interest in Sanskrit day by day, more and more people want to learn Sanskrit. So, why should they learn Sanskrit?
Very relevant question. Actually, what is that? To go to your original, how you are connected to with your breathing. It happens that you are very, very calm when you are connected to with your connected to your breathing. Just like that, if you want to connect yourself with your being, each and every human being is having all those chakras. All 8 chakras are there, and those are operating. Then prana, pana, vyana, udana, samana, all the vayus are same in human body. Then structure of human body is same for all. If you want to go there back with those vibrations, you want to match yourself with those vibrations, it is better to learn Sanskrit, no? Because those sounds which are connected with vibrations, those are there, they are surviving inside you. So they are not there in any other language. They are there in Sanskrit itself. They are clearly they are clear at the over there. So if you want to connect yourself with your being as a human, learning Sanskrit is better way.
Sanskrit, you just mentioned in this question that Sanskrit is a natural language, like it is from within. And also in Sanskrit, the concept of, you explained very well, dhatu, nigantu. So in nigantu, you did not focus on what do you mean by that.
Actually, Nighantu, Pratishakyas are explaining grammar, and Nighantus are Shabda Koshas, means those are dictionaries, for Vedic words. And there we get words also and verbs also. And those are, it will operate like a dictionary to get the words. Their meanings are discussed and given. So those Nighantu Koshas were there, and those were used for understanding meaning of Vedas, and those koshas were intact for many, many centuries. Now also they are there. And those are not connected with, means those are used for understanding, knowing words. They are not connected with the process by which is there in Pratishakyas. So that's why I didn't focus on that. Nighantus are Vedic Shabdakoshas of Vedic words, dictionaries of Vedic words.
And there are very lot of famous topics. People are saying mistranslables or intranslables,
Non-translatables.
non-translables, and the most of the people who have Sanskrit as an origin, including me, there is no parallel word to many English words. I'll give one example of liberal. Now, libre is, there's no translatable word in Sanskrit language, because Sanskrit itself is a very exact language. So there is you can make a mistake over there. So if we say the word liberal in Sanskrit, what will be the actual word in Sanskrit for liberal, English word?
Actually, last time we discussed this and we didn't come to the point that Swachhanda. But words are by the background, as you told, that liberals means not going against church. Finished.
Yes, that's right.
So that meaning cannot be here, because there's no thing like that going against church. It
Yes.
is going against your originality, or going against means going against yourself. That
Yes.
is there, Swachhanda.
Like Lokatantra, Ganatantra, Ganarajya. These are the topics of Mahabharata. Many areas, and women are discussing it. It's not the men who are discussing it. It's Kunti discussing it, Satyavati discussing it, Draupadi talking about it. Now, it also shows that the our history, we have seen that the language is known to show the person's intellect. So, based on the language, you can understand how knowledgeable a person is. Simple by few words, Sri Ram was impressed by Hanuman. We all know the incident when Sugriva sent him to meet him, and he said few words, and Ram tells to Lakshman, "I have never seen a more educated person like him, Vidwan." So the how does the and also today, if you look at the anyone who uses Sanskrit shloka and explains a point, he actually has some credence to it because he has. So Sanskrit is used and misused also because he may mistranslate it. And like somebody, I just said the word ma shucha. Somebody said that we should maintain cleanliness. Shucha has nothing to do with cleanliness. So people, he connected it to shocha, which is different altogether.
Yes, yes.
So the so how do people? So when people mistranslate a Sanskrit verse and they continue on that, build on that because of the sound familiarity and what is the common use. So what do you have to tell for them that what is the best practices they can use to not mistranslate a English word into Sanskrit as well as a Sanskrit word to also give an interpretation to that?
Very nice question. Actually, there are, very, very refined methods in grammar to identify which is a bhransha and means apabhransha and original word. They say that apabhranshas are many. You are not supposed to teach apabhranshas to the people, and if you understand vyutpatti or shabda siddhi, then it happens that you identify apabhranshas immediately. Hmm? So this lack of knowledge of traditional methods of verifying words, that is the reason why people are interpreted wrongly, and they say that they have referred lot many things and they are making means they are claiming that their vyutpatti or their shabda siddhi is right, but some people are intentionally doing it, and they are not bringing those things forward which are there, which is cancelling their meaning. So there are methods, but Sanskrit is learnt less, and those methods are means I said that parikhanditam, parampara khandaha. So those methods are to be again adopted, and most of people are learning them now again. Paninian grammar is learnt, and going to the origin of the word is very, very easy by that method, and by those methods it happens that immediately you can bit off those people who are giving you wrong meaning or wrong quotations or wrong quotes. As the as learned people will increase, it will happen that no one can quote wrong shlokas in wrong place. So this will happen naturally if lot many people are learning. Less people are learning, that's why it happens that people are dependent on your explanation and you are manipulating. So this manipulation went on for centuries, and people started using shlokas for their opinions to propagate them. So this has happened. So this is a very bad thing which is to be done, and it means there are methods, very refined methods to identify that.
And the best is to learn the dhatu. Go to the root word and see where the origin comes from, including
Yes.
dharti. And
Dhatu Patha, go to Dhatu Patha, then words, how words are created, then Shabda Kosha, like Nigantu, I said. Nigantu and Pratishakya, those are Vedic things. And with for Abhijata Sanskrit, which is used for communication, that Sanskrit is a little different from Vedic Sanskrit. For that also, we have those tools where we can segregate lot many things and understand. So that's why I said as grammar is most important, that you cannot do apabhrosha because of grammar. So that stability is there for thousands of years, 25,000 years. As Ramayana, how Hanuman spoke, same thing is adopted today. Same thing is possible today because the stability of grammar.
And also the Sanskrit in Ramayana appears to be easier than Sanskrit in Mahabharata, and the
Yes.
Sanskrit in Veda appears to be more difficult or on par with Mahabharata in terms of.
Actually, Vedic language is also very easy, but totally the Vedic language is its words are different, and Mahabharata's words are different. So that is Abhijata Sanskritam and Vedic Sanskritam. Though two parts were created because for daily communication, Vedic words were not used because they were directly connected to yajna. So it happened naturally that Abhijata Sanskritam was used. Simultaneously, it was there in the existence.
I think in the next show we'll focus on Nagari, like the how the languages are. Even Nagari is a Samanian language, and Bhasha, Nagari and Bhasha. But thank you so much for the information today, and for viewers who are watching on YouTube and other places. There will be link to the organization from which Dr. Sharda is from, and you can contact them over there and try to learn Sanskrit or get enrolled in their course and take advantage. The whole point is building a scientific mind and promoting a language, Sanskrit, which is a beautiful language. And next time I'll try to speak few words. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of Dr. Sarda. Therefore, I was not speaking much. But
Yes, I'll wait for your time.
but I will try to speak few words next time in the show. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very much.
much for coming on the
Oh,
show, and
Dhanyawada.
namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.